Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We are on a unique section of the verses which are pointing out what is that one who is liberated while living and after death. So we're talking about some features of a wise person who, while living, what do they see, what do they understand, how do they carry themselves? And we all have this question in our minds: who is a wise person? What do they look like? And we said that we cannot tell exactly what they look like, what they're wearing, what culture they have, what skin color they have, how they conduct themselves. The only way to tell who's liberated is that one's understanding is aligned, keeping with the realities. The realities are Vastu Tantram. Reality is reality. It always has been reality. It will never be anything but reality. As long as my mind, which is nothing but reality also, is not looking at that reality as it is, it's not seeing that reality as it is, it's not perceiving that reality as it is, it's not making the connections that are in accordance to that reality as it is, then that mind is as though a second reality. So now there's two realities. Therefore, I am in duality. So what non-duality means is that the very mind, which was the reality all along, it was nothing but the reality, that mind's job is to recognize it has no difference. It is not apart from the reality. Therefore, this alignment is what a Jivanmukta enjoys. And that took some time, that took some devotion, that took some commitment, that took some consistent listening and removing doubts and exposing yourself and being vulnerable and presenting yourself and coming to a point and saying, the center of this entire retreat, this discussion, is the truth. It is not proving oneself, it is not being above or upping one notch or downing oneself. It is recognizing what is happening right now. Because it was never not happening as it is happening right now. Therefore, I have to see and be okay with what is going on right now. Now, that one is that mind. So you can have two minds. One mind is keeping with the reality. Another mind is keeping with the not keeping with the reality. They both act like fools. In fact, it was the nice verse, right? They both behave as in ignorance. This is verse 52. They both move freely amidst people. They both move like the wind from place to place. And you cannot tell exactly who is wise and who is not wise, because you have a lot of unwise people who are freely moving from place to place, who are acting like fools, who are acting intelligent, who are moving, amidst people, very confident, and you think, wow, this is a great Mahatma. You can't tell. But the verse here says, even the wise may behave like an ignorant person, may display some funny, weird behavior, moves freely amidst people, this is verse 52, and moves like the wind. That means I'm not held down by certain kind of attachments. Wherever I am needed, I go there. Wherever there's a calling for the sake of a greater good, I go there. Therefore, the person is not bound anymore to one particular place. It has to be this way. It has to be at this time, with these people, with this culture, with this kind of teaching, with this kind of thing. All these rules have shaken up. The person is much more free to receive the information, knowing the center is the truth. If the personality is there, you can look through that. The center is the truth. Therefore, it lets the person flow in Ishvara's order. Before, I was trying to flow, I was doing my best to flow, but some things were not working out, and then I couldn't explain why I'm going through this situation. I couldn't kind of connect the dots. There was some suffering going on, but there was no sense of this is a much longer period that you've been alive than just 80 years. Only your body has been alive for 80 years. But your subtle body, that has been going on for millennia. And therefore, when you look at it from a standpoint of the larger picture, thousands of lifetimes, things start to make sense. Now, we cannot prove directly past life. We can't. There are many stories. I remember one story which kind of, open up the possibility, but still, from a scientific standpoint, you have to observe, you have to sort of see things. You're not going to perceive, and you're not going to be able to, make, guaranteed recognition of past life. But there is strong logic. There is more logic backing up past lives than there is not. Yes?
So it suddenly came to me like there are more and more people on this earth.
Yes, there are. Okay. Got it. So there are more and more people on this earth. Now, I went through this thinking already. There's a tendency to now kind of make some dots, but still it doesn't mean that, it just means that infinite jivas, there are infinite jivas out there. And those jivas are constantly alternating between insects, plants, trees, human beings, other lokas, right? The whole thing is like reshuffling across time and space, lokas. And we only see what's going on here, but we don't know where the jivas come from. We don't know what's going to be the next lifetime of this. Krishna says in the Gita that, chapter 8, that those who have began the journey of the Gita, of the wisdom, then their journey is no more going to go down into a sort of a plant or an insect body, or it's only going to be upwards. That means next life, you continue carrying on from where you left off. Now, it's things like that you cannot directly prove. I get that. So there is very few sections that make these, big statements that very kind of, they open up this questioning, how do you prove this and so on. But let me go back to past life logic. So very obvious, right? Very easy. So if there is a law, if there is an order and it's infallible, then there has to be a cause-effect relationship and it has to make sense. You can't have an effect. An effect is the birth of a person. You can't find an effect in this universe without a preceding cause. Not in anything can you find a product without it being connected to something that I cannot see directly. Just because I can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. Now, scientists, they use a lot of perception and inference, and they say, because I can't see your, what do you call it? Your subtle body? Because I can't see your subtle body, there is no such thing as a rebirth. Now, Vedanta says, all across the board in universe, there is not one thing, one effect that doesn't come without a preceding cause. And the cause always is somehow connected to the effect. So this means at the level of the body-mind, of the body, just the body, it's very simple because we can perceive genetical information and we can kind of infer. It comes from parents, grandparents, and so on. But the moment it comes to something more invisible, then immediately the scientist starts to question it because that's how they're trained. They're trained to work with observable, tangible data. But the moment you come to the subtle body, the data is no longer observable and tangible. You need a independent means of knowledge, a pramana. That's where Vedas comes in. That's why Vedas doesn't rely on science. It is actually science that is backing up the Vedas. It is actually science that is simply recognizing things that are already in the Vedas for a long time, such as we already knew the world is mithya. It's only recently that we started to say kind of in this, the world is mithya, it's dependent origination in Buddhism, right? This was there all along. We already knew about, the relativity of time and space. For example, there is a Shraddha, a yearly ceremony here in India, where you you address the importance of your ancestors. Your grandfather and your grandmother played a huge role in your life. Now, in the Vedic culture, we don't know where they are. We don't know that. But they say they are in the Pitra Loka. Pitra Loka is the Loka of ancestors, or whatever Loka they're at. Now, what the Rishis already knew was that how often do we give blessings and a little bit of gifts to acknowledge their importance in our lives? We do that once a year. This is the Shraddha ceremony here in India. But from their standpoint, because time and space is different, it's relative, it's every day. So from our standpoint, it's once a year. They're getting gifts every single day. So this is already one example of Rishis already recognizing the relativity of time and space. And yet in classical physics, we were saying that time and space is fixed. We had mathematical knowledge long ago in the Vedic tradition that much later these other Westerners started to bring it out. And then because the Westerner has this way of kind of percolating it throughout, it kind of seems that the Westerner has discovered it. But most of it was in the Vedic scriptures already, more or less. Not all of it, but a lot of it was. Astrology was there. Mathematics, the Vedic mathematics, Vedic mathematics. They calculate lightning fast using some very interesting trickery. And so this is in the Vedas. Now, the other logic is that for past life is that if there is an order and if there is a law that is infallible, then how do you explain that you can have two, siblings born, and one of them has this terrible condition, which from our standpoint seems very unfair, and then we have no way to explain, and then we blame God. How dare you? This is my son. This is a brand new child. How could you do this? They didn't do anything in their life to deserve this. But from our standpoint, from the Vedic standpoint, there is a connection. There is a preceding cause that we cannot see. And that preceding cause then manifests as this effect, which manifests as some, early premature death or even, abortion. Also, it's very hard to tell what is going on there because you had a child who wants to come into the world, and it seems, right, that their punyam and is not strong enough to be able to, actually deliver the full baby to this world. We don't know. I don't like to make speculations because these are very sensitive topics, but it's just to open up your mind to this cause-effect relationship. It doesn't last in just 80 years. This is our small mind. Just because the mind is small and it cannot think big, it doesn't mean that it's limited to 80 years. Find me one cause in this universe, cause and effect, that's only within an 80-year period, 80 or 90 years. Can't do it. Nothing lasts a set amount of time. Everything has a cause effect, cause effect, cause effect, cause effect, cause effect, cause effect, and that goes on for millennia, even if we don't see it. Okay? So, coming back thus to the wise person, they have this vision in their mind, and it makes it a lot easier to cope in this world of complexity. Now, if you go to a psychologist and you say, I don't understand my behavior, help me, they can help you, but only up to a certain point. Because they will address past life, maybe not. They will look at your, what's called a Freudian psychology, your childhood issues, and then we'll start from there onwards. But everything behind is left out. So then the Vedas can bring you a lot more. It can complete. Here's why I have certain tendencies. Here's why my life is like this. Because you can't answer that question with mere being born in a certain family, with a certain culture, with a certain place. It's not enough. There's much more behind to give you the whole picture of who you are right now as a person. Okay? Now, sometimes the ignorant person may behave as an ignorant. The wise person may behave as an ignorant. They may not know everything. They may not know about the universe, about communication skills. They may not know that. And you say, what an ignorant person. It doesn't matter. It's just at the level of their personality. It doesn't define their knowledge. So next time, we see some weirdo, no space for judgment. You never know. The one next to the bus station, next to you in the bus, on the airport, in the airplane, on the train, you don't know. That's how it is here. No one's going to carry a halo, even though we have this halo, imagery, and that is because, why do we have halo around liberated people? Yeah, like that. Why? Even Shiva here, halo. Self-shining, self-illuminating. That means, my buddhi, my upalabdhistanam, that place where cognition. That's a big tree now. Yeah. So, and you put little birds in it. Yeah. So, but brain is like this, isn't it? It's making different connections. So it's a symbol, like anything else. It shows you that, I have figured out what's the reality. I have come to see, the self-shining awareness is known to me exactly as it is, as I am. Not known to me, but I am that. In that sense, it is known as I am that. So that means it is, you put a little halo around the person's head to represent that knowledge has taken place. It is complete. Yeah. Now, when the mind is gross, because it turns all these symbolisms into literal meanings, it literally starts to look for people with an attractive aura, with a nice fragrance like rosemary or basil or something, which I know in the spiritual world happens too. You want to actually, kind of who smells like rosemary? Who smells like, what else it is? It's an Indian one. Sandalwood, that's the one. Who smells like sandal? It's amazing. So this means the mind is thinking like this. It wants, yeah. So now some people take advantage of that. So they put sandalwood on them and they surround themselves with light. And it works for tamasic minds. Because tamasic mind is gross. It wants relate to gross objects, which is okay because eventually, they will grow out of that. It takes some time, but at least they have some connection to, a guru, whatever that guru is. Okay, so it's not kind of this black or white. They're fraud, they're scammers. There's so much that what you see as fraud, fraud teachings. To somebody, it's actually, ironically, it's making a difference. It's amazing. It's actually making a difference. The most ludicrous things like, I'm going to make cows talk Sanskrit. Mr. Swami, I'm not going to mention his name. I'm going to, there's another one where I'm going to open up a bank account, okay? And just give me your money. Next life you get reborn. I will be able to kind of discern, who that you got reborn. I will find you, and I will give you back your money from the bank. This is coming from Mr. A particular type in this world, a controversial figure. He's still alive. But the point is, people believe this. They have professional interviews, lighting, lights and cameras and action. Sit down, let's talk. I'm talking to you. Let's talk about opening up a bank account. I'm going to teach about Sanskrit to cows. This is all possible. And people are like, yeah, like this. You see? Lack of discrimination. That's what Krishna, we're doing the Gita online now. That's what Krishna says. These are abhipashchits. He calls it abhipashchits. Those who lack discrimination. They use flowery words. They speak flowery words. Sounds very pretty, pleasing, all up in the air, like it's so poetical. But there's nothing tangible. There's no concreteness to the words. So this is, it's always been like this, so there's no need to sort of, try to, if you do something about it, there will be more born like this. It never ends. Never ends.
But it's quite hard not to be judgmental.
Yeah.
It's so evident, so loud, like a few people who are ruling us in today's world. I mean, clearly they're really showing us what we do not want ourselves to be. So it's very difficult not to be judgmental.
It's
Even
difficult.
in India, we have a few big swamis with big followings.
Yeah.
We know that it has nothing to do with the text.
Right.
It's difficult,
Yeah.
no? And then if you don't shun it, that means you encourage people to still continue following.
That is so true, right? So on one hand, see, again, what little can you do? I wrote actually an article for that very purpose that you speak now, Vijaya. So there's an institution that is very, very popular, top 10 on Google when you type in Bhagavad Gita, and they will always be there. And there's a belief that you do your work here, and you will go to Golaka or Vrindavan, right? And you will be with Krishna, and it's dance and it's gopis there, and it's all lovely. And I thought, it's just leading a lot of people right astray, because strictly speaking, it is not true. It is a false, it is a erroneous perception of the text. It is a personal interpretation that has started out through a certain, there's a certain history to it, and it ended up being this following. And when you have masses come, then there's this sort of energy around it. So I wrote an article specifically to ensure that when people type this institution versus Advaita, if you type in this institution versus Advaita, my page will be #1 on there. And it does a very good comprehensive analysis of where the erroneous notions are. You read it? Yeah. So you can ask Rajashri during our dinner time. And so that was done out of my love for Advaita, out of my clarity for what is, what makes sense. And it's my duty to do something little.
That article made me come here.
Amazing.
Yes, really.
Amazing.
Really, your love for Advaita made me come here.
Yeah, and it spoke out, it's just like Christianity. It's basically Indian Christianity, just rebranded. Yeah. I was there with Otto 2 years ago, and I was there and just attack, come join, like in my face, and I was a little bit taken back because I didn't have that much kind of strength. She was from Russia, in your face. But now you kind of know. I like Rajashri. Just hey, I'm not interested. This is but polite. I'm not interested. Go away, like this. So you have to have certain strength, certain confidence, because see, to come to Advaita, this is not an identity to be taken on. We're not here to, I am an Advaitin. Advaita is not about identity. Advaita is recognition of what is. So I can't brand that. I can't identify, take that as an identity. Understanding what is has nothing to do with pride. They're two contradictory things, because pride is an individual who's proud to have knowledge about the reality. But I am the reality. So there's no sense of pride when it comes to Advaita Vedanta. So this means there's a certain strength and confidence that you come from, and you confidently say, this is not for me. Look straight in the eye, this is not for me, okay? Like that, and you move on. Okay, so wise person, right, has this confidence in them, natural confidence, not superiority. And they, sometimes they act a little bit foolish, your old stuff comes back on and you say silly things, but, you come back, your mind comes back very quickly. So it's okay to be foolish or silly or, like this once in a while. We're not here to be perfect mind individuals. Mind will never be perfect. Now, verse 53, merge with Brahman after upadhis dissolve. So the wise person, right, as though merges with Brahman after the upadhis dissolve. Upadhi vilayat vishnau nirvishesham vishet munihi jale jalam viyat vyomni tejaha tejasi vayata. So, since we are on the topic of a Jivanmukta, we will continue talking about that. And it says here that a Jivanmukta, or one that is free while living, okay, so this is the enlightened being, their body and mind, they're using their body and mind no longer for satisfaction, but rather things are coming out of one's fullness. Before, the body mind was doing things to get fullness. Okay, once in a while, fullness, fullness, fullness. Now there's a certain fullness in oneself, a certain, that healthy independence, healthy knowledge of who I am. From that, you are able to, you want to give. And there is no sense of I'm wasting my time or, what they call tit for tat. I give a little bit to you and you give a little bit to me. There's an innocent outpouring of knowledge, of service, of contribution, because that's just, how you are. You're coming from fullness. And an example of this is Rama, when he lost his Sita, as we spoke about, was it yesterday, where now I'm going to turn the story around, because I said Rama is the self, and he lost his Sita, his peace. So that implies that Rama is a seeker. That's one version of the Ramayana. Now I'm going to turn the story around and say Rama is wise. He's the wise person. And before I move forward, notice what we're doing here. We're using the story to have a conversation. This is not about who's right. Rama is like this, Sita is like that. It's a conversational tool. So now, different story. Rama is wise and he loses his Sita. And what does he do? He starts to cry to the trees and the insects. Where's my Sita? Where's my Sita? Have you seen my Sita? He starts to cry, gets emotional. You have a wise person, free to show emotion. He's not afraid. He's not afraid to present himself like this. He's the Lord of the universe who knows everything, who's beyond it all. And he's like, have you seen Sita? No. How about you? Okay. If you find something, let me know. It's going to go back. He's showing human emotion. And this is healthy. It's a healthy, wise person. So they don't pretend. They don't put on a facade. They don't try to be this wise person, because being a wise person is at the level of the ego. When we say wise person, that means I understand that there's nothing that is apart from me. So in that sense, there's no sense of claiming, like there's no one to gain or lose. Consciousness has nothing to gain or lose. Only an ego has something to gain or lose. So only an ego will say, kind of pretend and put up a facade. And now, when we say the wise person is one with Ishvara, tat tvamasi, tat, so tvam is more like tvam tat asi. So you are that, because Sanskrit has a different order of grammar. So tvam tatasi, you are that. That thou art, this is all Old English. You are that, simple. Now you is referring to you, the jiva, right? Now you're no longer the jiva. Remember, you are, because once you are that, you're no longer the jiva. You're Brahman. So you, the truth of you, and the truth of Ishvara is one. So you are that. You are Ishvara. Now, this is a little bit funny, because how can I be Ishvara? You are that. So we have to do a little clarity of this. Because this is where I was reading an article, I think the last night, and they've always put this, they will try to break Vedanta down with some crazy logic, like how can they claim themselves to be all knowledge and all power? And they can't explain Vidya. If there's only one, then how does a Vidya come? And how does Maya come? Therefore, Vedantins can't explain this. I saw this last night. This comes from a Advaita conversation. This is like 1 + 1. We solved it. How can you have ignorance and Maya and Brahman and yet call it all one? You understand that? Yeah, because we worked through that logic. And yet they say, no, you see, they don't have an answer to this. Therefore, it's not one.
One person asked me, artist is there, VR is art, A-R-T, art. How can the artist and art become one? How can you explain that? One person asked. Artist is different, his art, VR is creation. Creation and artist can be same. This question.
Okay, well, both are just forms, just different expressions of the one form, and resolves into intelligence.
He did not get convinced, then I told, it's okay. Yes, I know that exactly.
Yeah, there are only apparent differences. One is an sentient being that produces, and then this is the product. Both of them are intelligence. So we got you are that. Tat, tvam, asi. Asi means are. Are, tvam, you, tat. Tat is that. So you are that. It's more like tvam, tat, asi. So you is the, I'm going to say, but because you're not a jiva, I'm going to put a halo around your head. Okay, because you recognize the you recognize the knowledge, right? Who you are. And tat, and you have limited knowledge. You are alpavid. Alpavid. That means alpa means a little bit. And alpa shakti. Alpa shakti. And that Ishvara, which is Ishvara, which is Sarva. Sarva Vid, Sarva Shakti. That means all knowledge, all power. Now, how do you solve this equation when you say you are that? Like, are we saying that you know, the wise person are Ishvara? Because you can't say that the wave is the ocean. The wave is a wave for the time being, the ocean is the ocean. But then, if you are that, then how can I, it's blasphemy, how can I call myself all knowledge, all power?
Difference in
The root
body.
of both of you is
Therefore, and that's the lakshyartha, that's the implied meaning. That's one little.
We told us difference in upadhi.
Yeah, excellent. So the upadhi is different. So upadhi, the big upadhi, and this is small upadhi. So at the level of upadhi, excellent Rajashri, at the level of the upadhi, there is a difference. At the level of wave and ocean, there is definitely a difference. But the level of the content, the substance, the formula is, they are exactly the same. Therefore, a wise person is Ishvara, but you understand that to the implied meaning is Ishvara in the sense of the essence. My essence and Ishvara's essence is one. So this means that even if you're wise, you still have namaste position and you still pray to Ishvara because this dear man or woman still needs the help of Ishvara. Still has a lot of pain to go through, still has, some good things to go through. You still have to resolve your things in this world. So you still need the grace of Ishvara. But you know that the one that I'm praying to is essentially not different from my real nature. Therefore, both. I can now have devotion, but I'm not lost in this dualistic kind of devotion. Okay, and so you have the wave. I'm going to go back to the wave example. And it starts off by recognizing that I am one of the participants in the ocean. And so because I don't run the rules, I have no choice but to start to relate to the ocean through other waves. How do you relate to Ishvara? Can you relate to the entire ocean? Then how do you relate to Ishvara, in this case the ocean? How do you relate to the ocean? Through your surrounding waves, because they are all not apart from Ishvara. Otherwise, how am I going to deal with the entire thing? It's too big. So this means the relationship directly changes of how we relate to people. Whatever status they're in, whatever school they're in. Finally, when you're aligned and your life is working out, you're clear enough, and then Ishvara, by its grace, right, brings you the pramana and the guru and shows you my truth, Mr. Mrs. Wave, and your truth and my truth are one. And therefore you come to see. Now, when you come to see that the truth is water, H2O, there's no place where the water is not. What happens then to devotion? Ironically, you're even more devoted because you realize that that's the only way to relate to myself while I'm in a form. The natural expression of relating to yourself from the standpoint of forms is through devotion. That's why Advaita Vedanta without devotion is incomplete. Devotion is not something that I turn on intentionally. It naturally follows understanding. Understanding, firmness of the knowledge, you become a lot more devotional. You're grateful to Ishvara for helping you, for delivering all of these stepping stones to you. Therefore, now you have true devotion. People may not see your devotion as devotion because people have ideas what devotion is. Jumping in the air, being very loud. In fact, the louder the person is, the farther away it is from the truth. The truth is silent. The truth is humble. The truth is personal. Therefore, you have devotion, but a very different kind of a devotion than most people think what devotion really means. They think, I'm going to go to a temple, I am devoting. Light incense sticks, I am devoting. Go to bhajans, do bhajans and prayers and pujas, I am devoting. Wave hands in the air and say chants, I am devoting. These are expressions of devoting, but it's not true devotion because they are time-bound. This is permanent devotion because you're established in the truth and you're never not relating to the truth as the world, as the forms. Therefore, your devotion becomes true devotion, non-dual devotion.
Never away from the truth.
Never away from the truth. The devotee, the devoted are one and the same. So this means I can still worship things in a temple, but I recognize there's no contradiction between the worshipped and the worshipper. It's one and the same. Therefore, let not be told, oh, you don't have devotion. Devotion is maturity also.
That also is a question. When we tell everything is same, why do you go to temple? That question also comes.
Yeah.
I have faced many questions.
Yeah, you see.
Why do you go then to temple?
Yeah, why are you going to a temple? Why are you praying to this? If everything's one.
Why do you have altar in your house, separate for God? Everything is one, then why do you keep?
Just listen to the question. If everything is one, why are you praying? If everything is one, the answer has already been given in the very question. If everything is one, why are you praying? Slow down and just listen to your question. It's amazing. It just slips right by because the mind is simply not subtle enough to pick up its own errors. That's why we got so much tapas and adhikari is so important.
Isn't it not that the person thinks that praying is devotion, but is asking? Then, that's different.
Yes, they have a different intention with their devotion.
They have a motive for everything.
Motive, yeah, agenda, join me.
It's not unconditional.
It's based on, because it adds on to I must be important. I must be in a very important place to have more people coming on.
I chant because I go to Vaikuntha.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, born as a Christian, I know this whole thing about being sold these sales pitches and
If Krishna don't take
knock on the door.
then I won't chant. That's the understanding.
Knock on the door. Hello, would you like to? Let me sell you Jesus. Megaphones on the streets. Jesus, come, Jesus. I'm not criticizing Jesus. I'm looking at the behavior. That's not what Jesus taught. He said, I am the light, I am the way. That's the truth. That's exactly what we're saying. I am the light, I am the way. But they say, He is the light, He is the way. Krishna is the light, He is the way. It's the same thing. Duality always works like that. Me small, He is big. Me, I have to be with Him. Every single time predictable, guaranteed, no matter what culture you go to. As I said on the website, I wrote the Advaita verse, Titans of Philosophy. Every major religion and philosophy is on there. They all have something in common, Advaita. Every one of them, period, Advaita. At some way or the other. There is Kashmir Shaivism a little bit there. There is Neo-Platoism a little bit there. Yes, it is non-dual, but there's something in me that the methodology to arrive to it doesn't, it's very complex in my opinion. It seems to be very complex to arrive without a proper methodology. And also there is a Dokchen, or Dzogchen, some say, people say, from Buddhism, which also, when they use the word consciousness, it's not truly consciousness what we talked about. I already analyzed deeply this. You can look up on the website and see the logic.
Shaivism, they use the word consciousness.
Who?
In Kashmir Shaivism,
They
use the word consciousness.
Yeah, Shiva Shakti they use there also. But you can look at the logics there, the details. It's very interesting.
And when you study the Course in Miracles and every day you teach yourself that everything is God, you are God, God is always with me, God is everything.
Having studied that for 2 years, it is Vishishta Advaita, it is qualified non-duality. It is not true non-duality. There are some parts that are non-dual teachings, definitely, but other parts is this where you are the Son of God. You are you're one thing and God is another thing.
You're a smaller part of God.
Yeah, so you're same but you're different at the same time. That's qualified non-dualism. So you can look at the analysis there, and you'll see examples of statements that give it away. But yeah, A Course in Miracles definitely changed my life a lot. It was like the biggest explosion of, it's like karma yoga of the West, Western karma yoga.
How do you answer people who put forward such questions? Like when I go, I know my family members will ask me, what did you learn? Right now, I'm not even ready to answer them this truthfully, because I don't want they to have distortion of the teaching. Because I don't feel I'm so well established that I can answer.
Got it.
So how do I address them? Because they are going to be curious.
They will.
I'm here since last 11 days, so they're going to be asking, what did you learn?
Yeah, sure. I've always default back to, I learned to reflect on my life. I learned to think a little bit more about my actions, to pause before I speak, to take care of myself, to incorporate the well-being of you and myself when acting, to be assertive and courageous, to claim what is important for me, what are my needs, and to speak out. And I've learned to stand up for myself because I matter. I've also learned the importance of bringing spirituality in one's life, and that we are ultimately all seeking fulfillment. And as you are, my dear, so you're also selling, the vision. And we're all seeking fulfillment. So in this way, I have come to discover this, and I am now taking, which I hope you understand me, my dear, the time to, have this vision come more into my life. So I may spend some time learning and revising my notes, and I will, gladly share with you once in a while some teachings that come to me, and I hope you will be open to listen, because you will really allow me to also share with you, because I love you, so I want us to, I would appreciate if we work together. And I hope you will be open enough to give me your input. That way we can build our friendship together. And in overall, I am very thankful that you were patient for allowing me and letting me being patient to let me be here. It really has transformed me at a deep core level, which I cannot quite enunciate, but the teachings will certainly start to percolate, and you will see that. So expect some changes, my dear. So you're just coming from honesty. It's not memorized, just honesty,
So, the same friend now asks, why do you have yourself indoctrinated like that? Because you're losing yourself completely. You go more and more in these Vedic ways of doing. They don't recognize you. You're just brainwashed.
That's what people tell
And
me.
you're not autonomous. You are losing your power. You give it away to some stupid people that change you completely.
Wow. Yeah. That's I bet that hurts.
Very.
Yeah.
And I can't explain that it's not bringing me away from myself, it's bringing me home.
Yeah.
I tell them, they give me something new. They just help me to realize what I'm always looking for. This is me, but it's like, and they say it out of love. They don't even say it out of, well, of course there's a judgment, but they say it out of love. Those people really love me.
Yeah.
I'm worried.
That comes from Christian group.
Just friends who are not into religion at all, but their belief is I have to find out everything for myself. So being in a group and reading books, it's a danger to them.
It's like a sect.
You see, when people are close to you and they knew you for some time, they're very much invested in their well-being also. And there's a fear of losing that person who provided so much safety and comfort to me. So the more I see that person waning away, it starts to threaten and question my own conscience. And it makes me uncomfortable. In that sense, I have one way of coping with that is by bringing you back. But what I really want to see while I'm saying that to you, suppose I am that person, is I want to see you hold your ground. And that's going to slowly heal me. It's going to heal my rigidity that this person is running their life, they know what they want, they have certain amount of clarity, and that is what I want. Because if I had the clarity, I would be busy on my own journey, changing myself day by day. Therefore, by you holding your ground, you will show them indirectly that they too have the ability to help themselves. Yeah, so this is something that we can hold your ground. You can say, I know that you're concerned and I thank you for that. I've thought about what you're saying. I very much, and I still keep thinking about what you're saying. And I'm very careful not to be sidetracked into any kind of cults or any kind of leaderships that are, erroneous. I care about my well-being as much as you care about your well-being. And I want to make sure that what I'm learning is keeping with what totally makes sense to me. And I really care that it's not a belief, that it's not some cult, that it's not some wishy-washy spirituality. So I ask you for some trust that what I'm doing, at least a little bit, 5% trust that what I'm doing is good for me. And if hopefully you care for me, I'm sure you can also appreciate at least a little bit that I am pursuing what is important for me. Yeah. So you're being again honest, telling them that this is your path. I had the same thing with my parents. They had no choice but to accept. And now they say, I support you. We support you, son. Whatever you do, we support you. Now, how much they mean that, that's not my business, but still, the conversation has at least changed. That's an improvement. Yeah.
I'm holding my ground, and then she becomes my teacher because I have to find ways to stay connected. Because when it hurts, I disconnect and I don't find the right words. So I take from what you say, holding my grounds is not debatable, but give me some trust.
Yeah, from trust. And another thing is that to always find something that I can reconnect with. Find something you can something we both have in common. For example, with my brother, we always joke. We talk about silly things that are totally useless, but still it allows us to reconnect. That much I am with him at that level. The moment it goes into philosophy, I just switch out because I know exactly where it's going to go. Especially if one's into Christianity, into devil worship. This is all devil worship, Andre. This doesn't make sense. Turn to Jesus. Nothing new. It's the same thing. Family members or strangers, it's the same thing. Ignorance expresses in the same way. They're together. They're very together people. I've always been the independent type. I don't know why. But if I stayed out of that whole family union, you're very comfortable. They're very happy. But I always had this thing from early childhood, just leave. Learn how to stand on your own two legs and, learn to evolve. Best decision ever made. Yeah. So anyway, what I'm saying is that, you follow your being honest to yourself. What is it that I need? And taking action. We're not here about philosophizing. Oh, okay, I need to know what I need. Just taking action, that's what it comes down to. There's a nice phrase in the Upanishads, I don't remember from where, which is basically the idea of, like a snake, keeps shedding its skin, moving forward, never looking back. Just letting go of the old chapters, old stuff, not even time to look back, because the past is the past. There's always a new moment. Life doesn't look back. When the water flows down from the mountain, it doesn't look back. It only goes forward to its final destination. Only we humans create these complications, and we remember the good old times, remember the good old times, remember the good old times. Every time we do that, we rob ourselves of moving forward. So there's a certain letting go of the past. It has made you who you are right now. I thank it and I let it go. Move forward. What is here? What is calling me right now? What situation do I need to attend to right now? Life only knows right now. We humans know right now, past, and future. And we like to take the past and the future and make it the present. So it's not really the present. It's just living in imagination. The past is living out of comfort. Future is living out of fear or comfort. Because I don't want the future to be unpleasant, so I fear. Come back here. What is asked of me right now in this situation? That's why it's interesting and useful to have hobbies and something that immerses you, something that keeps you in the present, whatever it is. So what keeps you in the present? Don't have to answer me. I'm just a rhetorical question. What keeps you in the present? I know for you it's to do anything small. Yeah, super.
Also watering the plants.
Ah, lovely. I have to do that all day then to be present.
No, yeah.
Clean the house, same.
Chanting.
Yeah? Chanting, super. What keeps you present? What snaps your mind out of the concerns of the future or the past and puts you here? The breath, excellent.
Doing my thing.
Doing what?
Doing my thing.
Doing your thing. Yeah, whatever the thing is.
That's a lot of things.
Yeah, doing my thing, yeah. It's a very personal statement. Doing my thing. Okay, so that's Jivanmukta, liberated while living. Now, when Jivanmukta drops their physical body, we call that Videha Mukti. Videha Mukti is where you no longer, you Brahman, no longer experience yourself through a body. And you're now at one with yourself. Before I was one of the many, as though one of the many. Now I am one with Ishvara and Brahman. Don't think that Ishvara and Brahman are two different things. Wherever there's Ishvara, that's where Brahman is. So it's not like now that I'm, no body, and now I'm just like this mindless existence awareness. I am all knowledge, all power, existence awareness, which is limitless. I am the whole thing. And thereby there's no more, coming back. And the verse says here, it's as though the pot water joins the total water. The cup space joins the total space. What else? I think that's what they use. And the light, the isolated light, joins the total light. Now, was this space ever confined while it was having a form? It was only as though confined. And it appreciated that. It's like, okay, for a while being, it is as though confined. But cognitively, I know the space, the I, when you say I, it's no longer referring just to here, is it? It's referring to everywhere. But in stage of ignorance, I was referring to this much. That's the difference. Okay. Therefore, Videha Mukti is breaking out of, this rebirth cycle.
So once the person has broken out and achieved Videha Mukti, if that person wills, will the person be able to come back in a body to help others?
The reason the answer is no is because, number one, I don't call the shots here. I don't choose to come back because it's an empirical world. I don't call the shots. Second is because awareness has no causal body, and it's the causal body that brings you back. So once I recognize myself as awareness, then at once I no longer have a causal body. The Jivanmukta doesn't have a causal body. They only have a prarabdha karma, but I don't have a causal body. Because I don't have a causal body, there is no chance of coming back again. Therefore, this notion of bodhisattva, this is, I wrote an article online about it. It doesn't make sense unless you are still in a stage of avidya and atyasa, then maybe it's possible. But as a liberated being, according to Vedanta, it's not possible. As a very compassionate person who's very educated and very sharp and has so much compassion, but they still are in avidya, ignorance, that one maybe. Maybe. I don't know, but maybe.
But what happens to their agami karmas?
Agami karmas, according to Atma Bodha, they go back to those who, benefited from the wise person. The students, and even when the wise person dies, then you have suddenly so much love for them. Oh, they were so, it's almost like something touches you. I keep hearing this when your teacher dies. It's almost like only then you have like something happens in you, something opens up finally that was not there while they were alive. And so that's one way to explain it. That agami goes to those who, honored the wise person.
That is why when Ramakrishna Paramahamsa died,
Yeah.
Swami Vivekananda felt some special.
No doubt. This is, you can hear stories like this between an ordinary daughter. She was on the other side of the world, and her mother was gasping for air in a hospital. And the daughter, being on holiday, she suddenly started to gasp in the same way, could hardly breathe. And she recognized, when she was able to finally breathe again, to call her mother up because she knew that the mother is in hospital. And just as she called, they said, your mother was gasping for air, and she just died. This is just one story out of hundreds of stories like this. So it's not just between guru and student, it is all across the board. And we usually need proof to see this, but it is already documented in the open air. We will continue this after break, the next verse. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.